Harlem.
כמה נקרא לפעמים.
So this is Harlem.
איפה? זה הסלפי?
כן. כולנו סלפי.
אתה לא רוצה סלפי? תביא לי
אתה רוצה סלפי?
יאללה.
Harlem being the mecca of African American culture, they're really referring to Central Harlem, and they're referring to a distinct period in time. You know, the 20s, 30s, and 40s, starting around the 1915, 1918. When there's migration from the south, people coming north for better opportunities, right? And a better living. That's not to say that everything in the north or in Harlem or New York City was perfect for the African American community. It was not. It was not. There was still the problem of not being in. You probably, when you took the subway, so you wouldn't have felt that hill, that grade as you ventured up. But if you had walked a little bit like George did from Central Harlem, you'd have felt it by the time you got a couple blocks from here, coming up steeply. Yeah. So this is Hamilton Heights. It's a little different. I love this neighborhood. It's low rise. It's mostly, the buildings are mostly historic, and you know, it's more residential and more family oriented. And the community here has done a lot to preserve the built environment, the historic character of the buildings. Unlike Central Harlem, which is losing a lot of the historic structures and historic.
No. Yeah, we've lost a lot of stuff. So when we enter Central Harlem, a lot of the stuff I'm going to be talking about, where this is where that was. And I'm quite sure it's the same thing in your country, you know? Yeah, there's a whole lot of the old nightclubs and
The
all.
bank that we were looking for, there's no bank.
Yeah, and the picture was updated. You know, they closed about 6 months ago. You know, probably, the bank. Yeah.
Okay.
So in the update, there's a photograph without the sign and a little arrow says wait. So anyway, I'm glad you're here to know
And so am I.
and learn a bit about Harlem. Sorry about the mix-up. I'll call get your guy later, and I'll hand you over to George now,
Okay,
who's the
good.
real expert in this.
All right. So we're going to head in this direction, and then I'll begin my tour. Which country are you visiting from?
We are from Israel. Israel.
Israel.
Yeah.
All three of you?
No.
Germany, Israel,
Germany.
Germany. Okay. All right. Okay. Well, again, my name is George, and I like to begin my tours by saying, welcome to the village of New Harlem, designated by the Dutch back in the 1600s. The Dutch were the first Europeans to settle on the island, and they named the island New Amsterdam in honor of the mother country. And then about 40 years later, I say the Dutch were here about in 1620s, and about the 1660s, the British took over the island, right? So they changed the name from New Amsterdam to New York in honor of the king's brother, who just happened to be the Duke of York at the time. So it was renamed, right? And you know, whenever I tell that little story about the Dutch and the British, and I have folks from the Netherlands visiting, and I'll tell them in history, when I was studying that part of history in high school, I always thought the British just pulled up in their warships and just took over, you know. But no, it was a swap. The Dutch wanted to monopolize the spice trade, and the British wanted to have a colony on the North American continent. So they traded islands. And when I tell the people from the Netherlands, they say, "Oh yeah, that was the worst trade we ever made," you know. But who knew, right? And I guess you noticed also, as you say, coming up the hill and around here, it's so hilly because most people think, it's like if you stay downtown in Lower Manhattan, most people think that this island is flat, but it is a very hilly island. And once you get out of Times Square and you know, in the Greenwich Village, and you come up into this part of Manhattan, it's very hilly. So it's really not a flat island. And even downtown where the island is flat during that time period, during the 1880s. And there were architectural firms that, see, because a lot of people think that they built this house, they built that house, and no, all of those were built at the same time. And there were architectural firms that specialized in the construction of row houses. Those, I'm sorry, coming up from City Hall up to 125th Street. Well, this set off a lot of real estate speculation as to what was going to happen in Harlem. And there was an over-construction of what was referred to at that time subway line coming up from City Hall up to 125th Street, 6th Avenue. There was a lot of real estate speculation. That set off a lot of real estate speculation. They said, oh, they're building this new subway line. And, you know, people are going to be moving uptown and everything. So, what they, you know, people just started building. But what they built was what was referred as tenements. You know what a tenement? Okay. If in the 1880s, if you had money, you lived in a house. If you didn't have money, you lived in a tenement building. Yeah. It's equivalent to what we refer to today as public housing.
Oh, okay.
Okay. But back then, it was these tenements that were constructed, they weren't owned by the government. These were private investors, okay? So they built too many. Black real estate guys got together and they formed this little group and they approached the white property owners and they said, hey, you guys, you have all of these buildings here. Half of them not even occupied. You're losing money and we can fill them up for you. And basically, this is what happened. This was around 1906. And African Americans began moving from Midtown Manhattan, uptown, to moving to those tenants. And what was, okay, there were tenants downtown, okay, they were living in tenants downtown. But these new tenants that were being constructed in Harlem had such modern amenities as indoor plumbing, central heating. So, hey, you know,
Yeah.
like anybody else, let's move into those tenants, okay? About 10 years later, around 1916, half of the black population in the United States began migrating from the southern part of the United States into the large northern cities, but just into cities in general. I would say prior to World War I, most African Americans in the United States lived in the countryside, out on farms. After the war, they lived in cities. It just changed the complete demographics of where black people lived in the United States, World War I, right? Mm-hmm. So much so that by the 1920s, Central Harlem had become the predominantly African American part of Harlem. I don't know, when Ewan was speaking to you guys, did she tell you that Harlem is divided into 4 separate neighborhoods, like where we are here is known as Washington Heights, named after George Washington, the first president. Also known, say that of the 4 parts of Harlem, this is the most expensive part. And also, of the 4 parts of Harlem, say in the 40s, the 50s, and the 60s, when Harlem, with Central Harlem and East Harlem, and when they were all going through, you know, the heroin epidemic and the crack. Okay, but I like to come into this block because I think it's one of the most beautiful blocks
It is.
in Hamilton Heights, right? And it's a very unique block in the sense that if you'll notice real close, you'll see that no two houses are identical. They're all different on both sides of the street. None of them are the same. They're all different. And when these houses were first constructed, they were all constructed to be single family residences, just one family. Because these people, they were, say, rich people, but they were wealthy people. The obvious play, too, is a Broadway play that's very expensive. The name of the play is Hamilton.
Hamilton Heights.
So this is called Hamilton Heights. I like to say that the architecture tells a story in the sense that all of the buildings that you see, say like this one, these across the street, and these, you know that these buildings were all constructed before World War II. Because during the war, they discovered non-flammable building materials. I'll tell you guys something about. Now, Duke Ellington didn't live here,
Didn't.
but his musical arranger lived here. Billy Strayhorn.
Oh, Bill Strayhorn.
Billy Strayhorn was his musical arranger.
Yeah, and the saxophone.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Duke Ellington and Billy Strayhorn. Duke Ellington was on tour.
And by the way, you know, most of the music that belongs to Duke Ellington, actually Billy Strayhorn wrote.
Oh, stop! I got to tell you guys this stuff. Right, he's right. And I'm going to tell you why. You know. Okay. Let me go.
I'm sorry to disturb.
Okay,
Sorry.
That's okay. You're right. Yeah. Well, Duke Ellington said that when they introduced the new tune, if it was a hit, oh well and good. If it was a flop, they still had to do it. So he took credit for all of the music.
Yeah.
Billy Strayhorn's music, he said that's why he did it. Because it was his orchestra. But again, I just wanted to explain why he said he did that. But anyway, they met. Duke Ellington was on tour. Billy Strayhorn was born in Dayton, Ohio. So after the show, Billy Strayhorn approached Duke Ellington and told him that he was a musical arranger and that he would like to work for him. So Duke Ellington gave him a musical score and says, take this home with you, rearrange the music, and let's see what you can do. So he brought the score back and showed it to Duke Ellington. He says, hey, you know, you're pretty good. He says, I like this. He says, now, if you'll come to New York, I'll give you a job. And he says, I tell you what now. He says, now, when you get into Manhattan, he says, the quickest way to get to Harlem is to take the A train. And from those instructions, Billy Strayhorn composed one of Duke Ellington's orchestras, Take
The A Train, yeah.
Da, 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 da.
Yeah.
That's just from those instructions, yeah. But Billy Strayhorn, you figure, this was 1942. Billy Strayhorn was an openly gay man, right? Now you figure he's black, he's openly gay, and he's a musician. He wasn't making any noise. He was just glad to be accepted by the other members of the band. He didn't start saying, well, where's my royalties? Yeah, I'm saying he was just glad to be part of the Duke Ellington's orchestra. And you figure in 1942, Duke Ellington was almost like at the height of his career.
Yeah, he was a superstar.
Yeah, he was a superstar.
He used to-
But mention what you said. Billy Strayhorn wrote Satin Doll, Sophisticated Lady, and a couple others. He wrote a lot of great stuff that Duke Ellington took credit for. But this is where Billy Strayhorn.
So where did Duke live?
Well, Duke Ellington had a whole lot of money, right? Duke Ellington, as they say, it was an open secret among the people who knew. Duke Ellington had 3 apartments. One for himself, one for his family, and one for his mistress.
He used to when they made a tour around the States, he used to come with an airplane and they used to drive with a bus. Okay? He was a wealthy man.
Yeah, he was definitely a working man.
From music.
Yes.
Yeah,
music.
from music.
He placed his music was his mistress, but he did have a mistress. His house was right here. But the house, they moved it. They came, lifted the house, pulled it out here, took it around the corner. You're going to see the house. Yeah. But let me tell you the story about Alexander Hamilton. Alexander Hamilton was born in the Caribbean on the islands of St. Kitts, Nevis, right? Came to the United States as a young man. Very smart. Very smart. He was sent by his church parish. I think.
איזה יפה, וואו. אין, זה כל כך יפה. יואו, איזה יפה. צלמי לבנות קצת, נוגה. צלמי להם קצת.
שנראה משהו ככה.
מה, זה לא יפה?
לא מעניין
מה, זה מדהים.
תגיע, תצלם את זה, תוריד את זה, תצלם את זה.
זה מדהים. לא, בסדר, את לא רוצה, לא צריך, לא? איזה מדהים, וואו. מה זה? No dogs on grass. What? I would never imagine that in Harlem there's such
Yes.
great buildings, you know, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's a real surprising for me.
Oh, okay. I
The city
understand.
of
Oh, this
the
is the city.
universe.
It must be in the 1930s or 1940s.
When he lived in
Yeah.
1920s.
1920.
1923. Yeah.
So this is the campus
He
of
was in Berlin.
University of
And then in 1930 he immigrates.
No, there's no door. No door. Not like Columbia University, you know, that's what, yeah, door. You know, some parts are better kept than others, but on the whole, yeah, it's really changed a lot, say, within the past 30 years, no doubt. So what you see now is a result of I would say, of the past 30 years. If you had come here 30 years ago, you would have seen the old mall. Yeah.
So when was this built, for example?
Oh, this school was built back in the 1840s.
Oh,
So like I say, Albert Einstein visited here
yeah.
in the 1920s.
Right, you said it.
Yeah. Okay,
Noga, look at the difference. Noga, look at the difference in the left of you.
Yes. So this is Harlem, you find.
and you see this silver structure with the beams like going like dunk, dunk, like
Yeah.
Anyway, that's the top of Yankee Stadium.
Oh,
That's 161st Street. I met you guys at 145th Street, right?
Right.
If you had stayed on the train one more stop,
You
the
get
next
there.
stop would have been 161st Street, Yankee Stadium. So
Wow.
where I met you guys, it was just one stop, and you would have been there.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Yankee Stadium, it's baseball, right?
Bloomberg was the mayor.
יש כאן ממש גן.
Okay, how you doing? Good. That's Alexander Hamilton's house that was up on the hill, and then it was moved here. But we're going to go down, and the dog passed away, so it's just her in that house. She has no tenants. It's beautiful. Come. And if anyone needs to use the restrooms, they've got restrooms. Let's see if they're open. I think they're open. But this house was constructed in 1804.
Functioning.
No function, wow.
Nope.
Unbelievable, wow. It doesn't look like no function.
How come the city hall doesn't do anything about it?
Well, it's the church's property. If they want to do something with it, they can do it. But it belongs to the church.
It belongs to the church,
It
I
belongs
see.
to the church.
I
That
see.
property.
If you want to buy it,
As far as the rental property is concerned,
צלמי את הבנות מתנדנדות על הנדנדה. את הבנות
those
מתנדנדות.
apartments are not that expensive. But also, just let me say that this is St. Nicholas Avenue, and we're on this side. We're still considered to be what would be.
צילמת את הבנות, נוגה?
sorry?
צילמת את הבנות? מתנדנדות? צלמי אותן.
Summer school.
Oh, right. Nice. מה קרה לי פה?
Up the hill. City on the hill. So that was supposed to be why they built it up there. Yeah.
Where's shopping area?
125th Street. Well, I was telling you, and a lot of people think that the house is constructed from brownstone. Well, with the brownstone, it's a sandstone, and it's applied with a trowel, and it's only on the front of the buildings. You can notice here, the houses are made
Of bricks.
from bricks.
Right.
And that brownstone facade, again, you can see where it stops. And again, it's only applied to the front of the building.
So beautiful.
Well, it stands up to where? So a lot of people now have taken to putting sun decks on top of their garages, so you can come out on your sun deck and sunbathe, and sort of. Yes, in the back. Yeah. So you're allowed. So it's easy. You go to that restaurant to eat, to spend $400 or $500 on dinner. You must be out of your mind. Her name was Elizabeth Taylor Greenfield, and she was an opera writer. So he took that name. But Mr. Pace, his records were pressed out in Long Island, the pressing company, and then they delivered them here, and then he distributed Black Swan Records. That was the first, and he sold out. And when he formed that company, say like in the late, it's 1919, began going into 1920, he was possibly the only person, music, was selling that kind of music like the blues, Bessie Smith, and and then when the larger record companies realized that there was a market for it, then they started getting into it, and then he sold Black Swan Records to in 1926. They made the front page of Variety. Variety is entertainment, kind of thing. He sold it to Paramount Records. Right. Nothing to do with Paramount movies. It's just Paramount Records. He sold, and it said Paramount goes into race music. That's what it was called.
Race music.
Race music. Right up until 1949, when Jerry Wexler became the head of Atlantic Records, and he changed it from race music to rhythm and blues.
It's like the jazz, at first they call it jazz. And it was kind of a kinky word for the music.
Yeah, well, Duke Ellington says he didn't like that word. Miles Davis said he didn't like that word either. Duke Ellington says it was just American music. He didn't like jazz. It's American music, that's it. That's it. Yeah.
See, Ophi. So beautiful.
Town. And the church was constructed in 1923. So if you go around to a lot of black churches in Central Harlem, you're going to see all of them were erected in the 1920s when this neighborhood was becoming a black neighborhood. They were all downtown. So somebody says, hey, black people are moving up to Harlem, so let's put the churches where the black people are, where we can get a congregation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you say it's not functioning on
This is a functioning church here. They have a large congregation.
לשם. What? מה? Excuse me, where is the ABC train?
Keep going.
Keep going, thank you. Keep going, נוגה. זה האזור המסחרי של הרלם, Central Harlem.
One of security guards.
אפולו. רגע, נוגה. מה?
איפה באמת זה היה המרקט פלייס הזה? איפה זה?
אני חושב שזה היה על השמינית או על ברודוויי. זה היה על ברודוויי. מה?
ברודוויי ומה?
ברודוויי ואחד החמישימים. זה מקום שעושים פה ג'אז ואין... כאן זה Back to the Future, נוגה. הם גדולים. The Eugene O'Neill Theater, the Book of Mormons.
וואו, מורגן סטנלי.
I thought you were going to fucking Jersey. I thought you go to fucking Jersey.
בואו אנחנו נעצור באיזשהו מקום, נשב, תזמין כרטיס.
הנה ספיידרמן. בואי, מים? טוב. לא תהיי צמאה אבל אחר? נוגה? איך האולם?
איך העולם מדהים.
כיף לך? כיף לך?
מדהים.
אבל לך כיף? כיף לך?
מדהים.
מדהים, אוקיי. איך קוראים לאולם? תסתכלי, איך קוראים לאולם? מינסקוף תיאטר. אני רגע רוצה לעשות צילום פה לסקוואר. Today is the 10th. 10th. Rainy day. Kind of. Kind of.
It's nice.
What?
It's nice.
Very nice. Very, very nice. In a Hilton. Here's the Hilton Hotel.
Well, next time. No, I'm coming very soon. I could have managed some ילדים.
מה?
מבחינת לראות אותם.
הם יבואו.
פחות.
יפה לך? מה? או.
And we're starting to like create this offering.
ומי את?
אני עמית.
עמית ומנגנת על?
כינור.
כינור, וואו, מגניב.
אבל לא בטוח שאני נגן.
למה לא?
היא כנרת קלאסית.
נו, זה הכי טוב.
הכי טוב.
הנה הפסל. וזאת תחנה, בדיוק.
This is water? This is water, right? This is water. נכון? מה זה? This is water? Yeah? This is water. מה זה? זה מים? מים. מים? מים.
Room
מי אוהב
is
מים?
business development room.
On the back of the router. Oh, okay. I mean, I can just.
מה? הוואוואי. What is a וואוואי?
Something about business development rooms.
Really? Why? 6.
עכשיו אתה רוצה אותו על וי-פיי? באיזה מצב הוא?
לא, עכשיו הוא לא בווי-פיי, הוא לא יכול להיות בווי-פיי, אין רשת.
אין לי וי-פיי. Yeah, what do you want?
מה את רוצה להגיד על סיכום ביקור בניו יורק?
I want to say that I want to think about it.
No, come on, תהיי קצת...
קומוניקטיבית.
לא קומוניקטיבית, תהיי קצת זורמת.
זורמת, I think New York is
זורמת.
lovely, dirty, but מקסימה. My nephew is מקסימה. Her children are amazing. Her Java is more than amazing. It's Java, I can't say it. She is the most happiest dog I've ever seen. Seriously. She jumped
Energetic,
energy, and I mean, like, she's amazing. And everything's fine, you know.
Good.
I need water.
אוקיי, בשדה תעופה.
If I survive. How long should it take?
Like almost 29 minutes.
Ah,
Like
okay.
30 minutes.
Oh, it's very...
It's not right now.
Saturday, yes.
כלבים, מאוד זבליים, מאוד תנועות. פארק אבניו באמת שדרה ממש נחשבת יוקרתית ביותר. למה? אני לא יודעת.
Saturday.
צריכים קצת לראות אוויר נורמלי.
מרתון ניו יורק.
איזה מרתון ניו יורק? מרתונון זה היה